Welcome back. We're going to continue our day with Horia Niculescu. Horia Niculescu is a customer engineer data analytics at Google. He's a passionate data enthusiast and loves to help organizations grow through the use of data. He joined Google 2 years ago after spending 15 years helping organizations up their data game. His battle-tested expertise covers both startups and large corporations with a focus on the retail and banking sectors. In this session, Horia will take us to explore how Google Cloud can boost agile development from the data perspective and help digital native organizations thrive. With a judging eye, we'll tackle some buzzwords like data democratization, data ops, and data products, and we'll put some Google Cloud services to the test against the Agile manifesto. Thank you for joining us, Horia.
Pop. Hi, hello guys. I don't know if we all know each other. I know someone in the room, someone I don't. We'll catch up to a coffee later on after this presentation if you like it. Then, just search me outside if you don't like it. Tell me what you don't like about this. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about data analytics and machine learning, right? Like Big Data Week. And we're going to test how data projects are ran under Agile. And we'll go a bit through Agile. I'm sure that everybody here knows about that, but we'll just set the tone with that, and then we'll check the Agile versus Waterfall, and then we'll check how we can deliver a data science project in under 2 weeks. Now, this is not a sales pitch for Google, right? I have there some names with some services, but we love AWS, we love Azure, like everybody is good in the game. We all have some perks, and we all have some things to improve, right? So take it with a grain of salt. I truly don't like to give a sales pitch here. Cool. So let's move. Now, the Agile manifesto, the big thing. I will go quickly through this. You have your Scrum Masters. By the way, who here is working in any kind of Agile, like Kanban, Scrum, whatever? Can you please raise your hands? 1, 2, 3. Whoa, that's great, half the room, cool. For the other half, if you haven't been stressed by your Scrum Masters or Scrum Masters to be, this is the thing. I will focus specially on individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Why? I represent Google, right? And we represent the tools for you to implement and interact with the teams. Now, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, etc., etc. Again, focus on individuals in interactions over processes and tools. This will help us find value, define value, and then also deliver. Now, of course, these are the frameworks, but we also have some other frameworks there down below. I'm not a fan of Kanban. I'm really a fan of Scrum. And extreme programming is just for the few, at least from my perspective, like 7 or 8 years working in this, extreme programming is not for everyone. So, yay, let's talk Scrum. Now, what's the deal with Scrum? Bam. We have the waterfall and the Scrum up there. Now, the thing with Scrum, of course, we need to get the market fit. We need to get value really fast. And in data projects, usually in the waterfall, right, you'll have planning, provisioning, develop something A, develop B, develop C, assemble everything, run through the user acceptance test, and then do the release. Ooh, that's the waterfall. We don't want that. So we want a lot of iterations, right? Iteration 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. And by the end of each iteration, we need a working product. Even if it's, like really, really bad, we need a working program. A working product. So we are responding to change. So we're testing a bit, against the Agile manifesto. We're responding to change. We have the working software over each iteration. We have the customer collaboration, right? So let's say we are a retail company, for example, right? An e-commerce, 100 users. What would you do with 100 users, right? That's nothing. Okay, 300 users after the 4th week, let's take a sprint of 2 weeks. 800, 1060, whoa. So this means that, let's say in 16 weeks, we already have a base of 40K users. And that's the true market fit, right? Because we already collaborated with our users, we've steered our solution, and we have that. If we work in the waterfall thing, we just have the working software, right? We still need to iterate somehow. Cool. Now, how can we take the waterfall? This is the most challenging part I see when I interact with teams. Here at Google, I interact with a lot of teams trying to push them, accelerate their journey in the cloud, especially with data. So how are you going to take all of this waterfall and apply it to Scrum? Next. Okay. Provisioning, right? We need to provision all our resources. Okay. How do we simplify? Through environment management. Hashtag DevOps. Then we have all the development, right? How do we expedite the development phase? Well, first is simplifying data sharing. Again, this is a data conference, right? And we need to simplify that, either through data contracts, either through, I don't know, data mesh. By the way, the other presentation is about data mesh, hashtag love. And we need to unify the dev stack, right? Everybody works on the same dev stack. These accelerate things. Now, assembly, how do we put everything together, right? Is the CD in the CI/CD, this is the CD part. Okay, adopt message brokers and API, microservice architecture, user acceptance test. Oh my God, usually projects fail so bad because they spend so much time in user acceptance test. Well, it's simple, just reduce the features, right? Decrease the impact of each release, and bam, that's it. Why? Because you have a really small and narrow focus. The release itself, simplify environment management, exactly like we had in the provisioning, and plan is reduce feature complexity. Bam, yay. And this doesn't only apply to data, not only to backend, not only to frontend, this applies to the full stack. This is what Agile says, right? You need, and especially Scrum, you need a self-managed, self-organized, full feature team. Why? Because you need to do all of this inside a single team in 2 weeks. Cool. How can Google help? Again, hashtag love, Azure, AWS. We all have, so what you'll be seeing next, like with some of the products, etc. Just think of, I don't know, instead of cloud storage, think of S3. Instead of BigQuery, think of Redshift, whatever, right? It should be agnostic, but then again, hashtag Google. Now, Agile adoption with Google Cloud based on this transformation of the waterfall to a 2-week sprint. Simplify environment management, right? Again, agnostic. Infrastructure as a code. We need to, this is why you're here, right? This is the more technical thing with the DevOps. Infrastructure as a code is a must. Either use Terraform, which is cloud agnostic, or cloud build, or whatever. Infrastructure as a code is king. Kubernetes. We start seeing more and more data teams adopting Kubernetes. Containerization. Why is that? Well, I don't know. Just put a very small admin on top of your data product. If you want to interact with your customers, either external directly on your websites or directly in your stores, whatever, or internally with other teams, you need somehow to communicate that. And Kubernetes is like king. And then, of course, simplify GitOps, CI/CD, again, cloud build over there. Now, unify the stack. Well, okay, Google Cloud Platform is a stack, we put everything together. But then again, start using REST APIs, right? Once you do that, then you don't need to install local clients, local agents, local whatever. You have this unified RESTful API boundary. Okay, but then again, maybe you don't want to write CURL with every line of code, right? So you need an SDK of something. Find the SDK for your solution and use it. That's definitely. And then even so, client SDKs, maybe you don't want to write with the command line, right? Okay, find your library of choice, like Java, Python, whatever, and then implement that. Of course, in Google Cloud, you have everything, but then again, also on the other clouds. And then simplifying data sharing. That's the crux of this thing. How do you simplify it, right? Because we have a lot of talks here with data governance, okay? What data, data discoverability, data sharing, IAM, controls, granular controls, whatever. Now, in our case, we would recommend BigQuery, but then again, you have all of these kind of things. The thing is, expose your data as soon as possible. Don't wait for somebody to ask for your data. Curate it and put it out there, right? With a good data governance approach, you should be proactive in sharing data and not retroactive. Don't wait for the logistics team to come and ask you for, I don't know, the orders or the time to delivery or whatever. Just put it out there. That's really important. Microservice architecture, again, Cloud Run, GKE, Cloud Functions. I love Cloud Functions. If you also love Cloud Functions, come meet me up after. I'm really passionate about them. What then? Adopt APIs and message broker, an API-first approach. On Google Cloud, we have this API-first approach, right? All of the services are exposed through the APIs, whatever. You should also do that, definitely. But then again, okay, that's a sync approach, right? What about the async approach? I think we also have some really great talks about asynchronous message brokers. In this case, here it pops up, but whatever, just replace it with Kafka and you have it. Like, that's really important. We should adopt more of the streaming data flows. And then, of course, what about ML? My God, everybody does ML, but then again, so few people, so few teams actually implement it and have an end-to-end ML flow. Well, in this case, we have the solution with Vertex endpoints, but then again, you also have Databricks or whatever, right? There are a lot of really great solutions that will help you, what's that? Expedite time to production for ML flows, and many more. Simplify access control layers, that's the most important thing. Okay, and many more. Cool. So, we've seen, you know, the Agile part, and then we are trying right now, we're trying to transform the 4-month project into a 2 weeks sprint. With almost on par feature to feature delivery, right? And actually, let's check it out. So our challenge right now is take one team, a backend, a front end, a data engineer, data ops, an ML engineer, and a product owner. The product owner should also be a QA, right? This is a Scrum team, so this means that it needs to be self-organized and it needs to fulfill all of its tasks. You know, like it's a bubble. They don't go outside, they don't request for resources, they deliver their product by their own. So all of the people inside the Scrum team should also wear multiple hats. And the feature, right? What's our challenge right now? Extend the customer payment options with credit capabilities, right? Let's say I want a new pair of shoes, I cannot buy it, and I want to, I don't know, postpone my payment or pay it in installments, in 3 installments, whatever. That's a nice feature. It brings business value. Let's try to see if we can do it in this sprint. So we need to define the value that we deliver by the end of the sprint. So what's the value here? Target and enable user request for extended payment via dedicated page, right? So we already have our page. We don't want to build anything else. We just want to click, delay my payment, 3 months, and that's it. And then everybody should do their stuff. We want this to work. As in any of the Scrum things, we need to do a bit of preparation. There are some rituals like sprint planning, sprint refinement, and then the retrospective, the dailies, whatever. Now, before the sprint, we need to have this refinement and planning. But what we need to do to actually implement this? We need to prepare the architecture, design, and technical implementation. Okay, so we need to know what we're doing, what tools and what services we'll be using. Okay, collaborate with business stakeholders to get sample and test the data, right? So we don't want to develop in the blind. Like, we should sit down, I don't know, with somebody from marketing or somebody from supply chain and really ask them, like, what are you trying to achieve with this? And in this case, I think the stakeholder would be, I don't know, the CFO team, the finance team, whatever. And then we should also review the implementation patterns and solution approach and with the communities and the external teams. This is really important. Why? Because in Agile, when you have this isolated team, usually in sprints, you really want to keep them isolated, right? Just to focus on what they need to do. Don't stress them with other bugs, with other, I don't know, integrations with other teams. No, you usually isolate the team. You have the Scrum Master and the PO, and then all the requests should go through them. You put them in the backlog. If they are valuable enough, they will make it to the next sprint. For sure, not on this one. Now, this is the outside, pressure on the team. But then again, this isolation is not good. Why? Because you have all of this alignment. The team will start working nicely. Everybody will have exactly the same way of thinking. They will love their stack, and they won't get out of their bubble. And that's bad. So in Agile and Scrum, how this is tackled is with communities, right? You'll have communities of practice on various things, either data engineering, MLOps, data ops, DevOps, whatever, but you'll need these communities. And then again, during planning, it's really important to have this feedback coming from external teams. Also in planning, so this is all done before actually closing up the doors and letting the team for 2 weeks develop this solution, is also check all the repositories, right? Like, is your Git up to date? Have you tested all the libraries, all the, snippets of code that you'd use? Check and prepare roles and permissions. Oh, this is something that I've seen in a lot of engagements with other teams, is they set up everything and then they realize they don't have access to a cloud project. I see a lot of smiles in the room. Okay, that's also the case here. And they don't have access to projects, to resources, to repos, to data, to APIs, security keys, service accounts, you name it. That needs to be done here in planning, or else the sprint will fail. Okay, so now let's take a step back and see how we should tackle this, right? Like, this needs to be done, regardless of it's Google, it's another thing. It needs to be done in Agile Scrum. And then the architecture design, well, we have the cloud reference architecture page. Okay, whatever. I'm sure that you can find tons and tons of artifacts. It's just a matter of taking, the sweet spot and checking the level of architecture design that you want to implement, because you won't find, the silver bullet copy paste, exactly the same diagram, but then again, you need some inspirations. In our case, it's the reference architecture, whatever. And then you have how do you share the data, like, really fast, right? And in most cases, you either have a CSV file, though if you ask somebody from finance to share with you a CSV, they'll say, oh, an Excel, but with another extension. Yeah, whatever. But in this case, it would be spreadsheets, right? Why spreadsheets? Because being part of the platform, you can federate the queries and you can use various tools that are directly linked to spreadsheets. And in this case, okay, review implementation, right? Now, on our end, you have a lot of roles, like with the technical account manager, the customer engineer, which would be me, the professional services, which would be a really highly skilled team that helps you implement. The thing is, always ask for help when you adopt this framework of Agile Scrum. Always ask for help and for validation, external validation. It's really important. Okay, public GitHub repos, whatever. And here, initially, one of the first sprints that your team needs to do is to set up the basics. We call it the landing zone, but then again, you'll have this in all of the clouds, whatever. It should be agnostic of Google. But set up the landing zone. So this means that you should have a quick way to define access to various resources. For example, in this case, we'll use some Vertex AI and some BigQuery, whatever. The database and the AI and ML platform. You need access to it, and you don't need to wait days. So setting up the landing zone should be the first priority of the team. You know, like you should have a technical sprint, sprint 0, sprint 1, however you want to call it, to cover this, not to deliver value, but cover the basics. And from then on, you say, okay, from now on, by the end of each sprint, we will deliver value. This is our KPI as a team. Now, we said that we want to discuss Kanban, but inside the sprint, it's always best, you know, to have these lines, the columns and lines, like to do, in progress, and done. Day 1, right? We already have the foundation. What should we do in day 1? Again, this is a sprint of 2 weeks, so we only have 10 days. 10 days to deliver the feature. Manually spin up the resources, either using the user interface, the client, the SDK, whatever. Manually spin it up. I know a lot of people here, yeah, but what about automation? No, we don't care that. This is the first day. We don't know if this feature will fly or not. So let's just spin it up in 5 minutes, click, 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 or maybe you have some scripts, you know, and with 5 lines of code, you just have the required resources. That's it. Don't start terraforming from day 0. No freaking way. Terraform should come in sprint 2, 3, 4, when we already have the customer validation and when we know that this is a winning feature. Not now. Then, of course, setting up the folder and structure with IAM roles. That's really important for governance, for security. Set up subtopics, right? We want to have incoming data from the customers that actually click, I want to postpone, or I want to split my payment in 3 months. Define the JSON payload. Again, these are data contracts, and this is really important. You should have the data contract with the providing party. Let's say you have the backend engineers that will send you the payload, like, hey, we have this JSON format, this is the JSON schema. If we're going to change it, this is how we will inform you. This is the release cycle, and this is where you need to check up for the new documentation. You really need this. And again, on your end, whenever you will share the data, you need to document it. If you don't have this, you will fail. I've seen this 99% of the time. If you don't have the definition of the JSON payload, you will spend days and days trying to figure out, okay, so this is the JSON that I receive. And then once every 2 or 3 days, you'll have a call, a message sent by some legacy API or some legacy event that will add other, other columns or other attributes. Your data pipeline will fail, and that's bad. And then in progress. So we have our message broker. Let's call it Kafka. There it's pops up. That's from Google, but let's call it Kafka. And data is starting to flow in. How are you going to consume it, right? Well, you can spin a GKE cluster, and then you can write a Python code or Java code or whatever for a consumer, and this is the do-it-yourself thing. Or in our case, you can use Dataflow, which is actually Apache Beam. Whatever is your flavor, whatever is your cup of tea, do it. But then again, you will need this. And then, of course, provision your resources in the database. In this case, it's BigQuery again, could be Redshift, Athena, whatever. And one of the most important things in order to be able to deliver it fast, use a JSON format. Don't flatten the data. Maybe also use, like structs, arrays in your messages. BigQuery supports that. I'm sure that most other databases right now supports nested data. That's great. But even nested data, you have a JSON payload. And the JSON payload, what is it? It's actually a string. And you need an interpreter to take that string and put it in the database format. And in this case, you don't even need that. For BigQuery, like it sees that it's a JSON, okay, you have the JSON type, data type, and bam, that's it. So you don't need to spend time writing code to either serialize the JSON and put it in flat, or to just nicely fit it into a database format. Of course, you need to do some lightweight feature engineering. So you are taking some information from a customer, and you know that this customer has an email, has let's say, time spent on the website. This customer has the number of orders and LTV, lifetime value of the customer. This is the input that you have in the JSON. Okay, and then you'd like to play a bit with feature engineering, and this is, you know, like just writing BigQuery. Don't spend time using, you know, like pandas, data frame, NumPy, whatever. Not now. Not now. If you want speed, if you want reduce cost, if you want whatever, then yes. Else, this is day 0, right? Day 1 in the sprint. So we've just started the sprint, and we want, like in 2 hours, to have the data set ready to feed it to machine learning. This is why just use whatever you have. Don't spin up notebooks or whatever. Use the database directly. So why manual spin up? Because we don't want to over-engineer. Why set up folder structures? Because we will set up all of the YAM, identity aware management, and all of the ACLs, access control layers. We will set it at product level and then go down to folder structure. Pub subtopics, of course, we need to react fast. Focus on business value and understand the end user and the use case. This is why we need to perform feature engineering, and everybody should be there on site when we do feature engineering. Either be it the front end, the back end, the QA, whatever, everybody should be there, because during feature engineering, we're actually understanding data. Oh, so we're taking the lifetime value and then we'll split it by 3 years, because we already know that the customer is with us, is registered 3 years ago. Okay, so this leads to a KPI, and this is how everybody will know what we're doing there. We need to understand the data. Be agile, be frugal, and work with what you've got. That's a nice thing over there. Okay, so this is day 2, right? By now, we already have the data ready. It's ingested. We have an in-stream of data using PubSub, data flow, BigQuery, transformation, and then feature engineering. Everything is streaming data. Now, let's start building the models, right? And in this case, we have BigQuery ML. You know, like just write some SQL, basic SQL code, write like BigQuery model.train, whatever. In 2 lines of code, you can train the model. You don't like this? Use AutoML. Don't use scikit-learn, not yet. That takes time, right? We're just in the 2nd day. So right now, we want a working prototype. And then we have all of this. Usually training a model on some sample data would take us, I don't know, half an hour, 1 hour. And we want to deploy it. This is the endpoint, right? So we want to have a call where we knock on the door with a CURL, with whatever, and we get a result. We don't care right now, we're building the mockup. We don't care right now on the model accuracy, right? We just need that artifact to sit there somewhere in a model registry somewhere, and then create an endpoint on top of it. And this is how we, under 2 days, we have this thing going. Now, I've seen a lot of friction between software engineers and data engineers. You know, like, hey, is the data ready? Do you have the features ready? Okay, let me train the model. No, I need some additional features. Whatever, everybody should work together. And then deploy it in a model registry. Again, this is really important. Don't put it on an S3, on a Google Cloud Storage, whatever. Try to find a model registry and use it as a central hub for the models. Okay, now BigQuery ML. A lot of types of models. Again, I don't want this to be a sales pitch, so we're just skipping over. Now, this is day 3, right? So this is Wednesday. Ooh, we're starting the sprint. Day 3, bam. We already have an end-to-end solution with the mockup, with the endpoints, with the model registry, with everything. So right now, we want to tweak it. Let's say in BigQuery ML, we had an accuracy of the eligibility of the customer of 80%. Like, yeah, this customer is eligible for payment. You're 80% sure that he will pay. If you send the shoes right now, you're 80% sure that he will. What's that? He will pay the entire sum. Okay, in day 3, we're starting running contestants on our first model. So we already have the end-to-end thing, and let's try AutoML. Let's try, again, take that model from AutoML and deploy it to endpoints. Now, the thing with AutoML, it's like purely business driven. The PO should do that. You don't need to write any piece of code, right? You just set the model type, linear regression, time series, ARIMA plus whatever, and then you say, okay, I want to train it on my sample data for 2 hours. Click, and that's it. The team should not focus on that. The developer team, the PO, should focus on that. Everybody should contribute. Of course, having the centralized model registry helps, because in this case, the PO, the non-technical person, should not start writing, okay, define my model, scikit-learn that, deploy, whatever. No, just click a button, put it in the model registry, and that's it. Okay, now, AutoML. Yeah, but can you use AutoML? Like, what's this thing over here? You have some limitations, right? Like you need at least 50 rows for times the number of features, right? So your data set should be somehow balanced. And depending on, for a time series, for example, for ARIMA Plus, you'd need at least 5,000 rows for the number of features. So AutoML is not a silver bullet, but for sure it works for most of the use cases. So non-technical people, non-data scientists should be able to work with this. Of course, Google has AutoML, but then again, you also have a lot of other solutions on the market that can simply train the models without any line of code. Okay, we've reached day 4. Ooh, this is first day. And of course, you know, life is unpredictable. So we have paragliding session, yay, or not. We have a full day of bugs and writing of technical debt, or not, right? Or a full day of company meetings, whatever. The message here is that we need to respond to change, right? So I'm not selling the perfect setup. For sure, teams will be overrun by all of this kind of stuff. One day, bam, that's it. Day 5 to 9, right? What we need to do? Well, this is where we start working with scikit-learn. This is where we start running with Jupyter notebooks, whatever. This is where we start doing all the models and testing and whatever. And we're iterating. But this is still the first week. We have the end-to-end solution. So right now, what we need to do is improve each of the pieces, right? Models, okay, just train other models, plug and play. Input data, just run some feature engineering, and then you'll have additional columns. Endpoint, just spin up another endpoint, or spin up a new version of the endpoint and do directly A/B testing inside endpoints. Like, that's one of the features of the Vertex AI endpoints, but whatever, just spin to endpoints, right? Spin to HTTP addresses. Okay, and then focus on value, avoid toil work. You shouldn't do this in the first days. You first need to set up everything that works, and then enable business visibility. You need reports. If you'll be doing this in your laboratory, and if business folks won't see the value, and if they don't have transparency of why have you deemed Horia worthy of postponing his payment, because from the data that I see, he's not worthy, right? He's a bad customer. And this is why we need to have these dashboards with KPI monitoring with everyone. This is part of the team, right? This is not part of someone else's team. You don't ask for the BI team to come up and build the dashboards for you. Like, no freaking way. No, they need to be here again. No DevOps. You need for them to build manually the dashboards and to make the story stick. Kubeflow pipelines, I love that. I also have some talks with Kubeflow pipelines. I'm really a fan. If you're also a fan, then let's talk. Focus on value, avoid toil work. Again, use the endpoints and use Vertex batch predictions. Now, day 10, we finish up the sprint, right? We've run some iterations. We don't have the perfect product, but we have a working product. From the second day, we have it working. And right now, we're going to do the demo with our stakeholders. What should we do? Right now, we're talking about terraforming scripts. If we have time, even for SQL, if we have time, let's spin that up. And then let's parameterize all the packages, etc. Let's not try to do all this manual work. If we have time, let's also build some parameters and build that pipeline. And if we still have things in the to-do list, by the end of the sprint, they're in big trouble. Why? Because it means that we haven't delivered all that we needed, and it means that our feature doesn't work. So you'll have a word with your Agile coach or Scrum Master or whoever takes care of the delivery at the end of the sprint. Now, and with this, we have one more slide. We finish up the sprint, we do the demo. People are, meh, okay, it's working, nice, but you need to improve the accuracy, you need to improve the response time of your API. It takes 1 second, we want to have it live. You need to improve your security because right now your data is all over the place. That's great feedback. This is what you're after, right? By the end of the first sprint. You take all that feedback, you put the user stories in your backlog, and then iterate. Now, a lot of teams are, based on my experience, a lot of teams are struggling with this. Oh my God, but we don't have the budget, and using AutoML, I don't know, it's $30 per hour, or we don't have enough budget. Using BigQuery ML, we need to spin up a new process, and then the query cost is above our budget. Whatever. This is Agile. We need to deliver value. And if you don't have buy-in from your stakeholders, from your sponsors, then this won't fly. Don't worry about the budget. The PO should do that. The team should deliver value. Again, focus, right? Under 2 weeks, you're there in your bubble and you need to deliver value, don't care about the budget. If the feature is working, I'm sure that all of the stakeholders will applaud and they will give you funds. But again, you need to fail fast. If this doesn't catch, if this doesn't fly, then you need to kill it quickly. Now, feature store. This is another thing, right? Everybody says, yeah, but then again, we need a really great data model in order to serve our machine learning. No, maybe you just need a feature store. Go out there, like buy Feast or use the feature store in Vertex AI or whatever, but use a feature store that really speeds up the process. Feedback, again, right? You have the lessons learned. The team has the retrospective, right? Things that work, things that didn't. Share back. In this case, your technical findings, go to Google Cloud, put up some feature requests, open up some bugs, either on Google Cloud, on AWS, on Azure, whatever. Go back and share the feedback with your solution provider. That's for your sakes. Technical depths. How do you tackle technical depths? If you move so fast, for sure you will have technical depths. Do it in communities of practice. Create these reusable artifacts and then share the responsibility of improving those artifacts with other teams. You deliver them value, half-baked, semi-working artifacts, and they will deliver you their iteration. And you do this vice versa. Not inside the sprint, after the sprint. Again, inside the sprint, you are isolated. Technical depth. Again, what are you going to do with this? Sometimes after a number of sprints, you will have so much technical depth that the team will say, enough. Like, we've moved way too fast. We really need to put everything together. And this is where I've seen, and I'm preaching this over and over, take some technical breaks. Like, you've delivered, you've found out that nice market fit for a given feature, sprint 1, 2, 3, 4, say stop. Right now, we need to strengthen our, strengthen our base. Clearly defined boundaries between teams, that's definitely contribute, okay? You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. If you found some really interesting thing, put it out there in open source communities, and then take the most out of it. And KISS, don't over-engineering things. Right now, there's a lot of pressure of time to market for most of the features, and we really need to deliver fast. This is why we don't check for budget. This is why we need to move fast, and we will do the terraforming, the CI/CD and everything just as the last resort or in these technical breaks. And what we're focusing is delivering value and making things work. So I think that's be agile, be frugal, and work with what you've got. Yeah, definitely. Agile and frugal. So yeah, this is my message, and this is what I've learned from both implementing these kind of projects in a product team, and then also in the last almost 2 years that I've been in Google, a lot of teams are struggling with the transition from waterfall to agile, and I'm saying it's totally doable. Maybe not a fairy tale that I've just shared with you, but if you follow this kind of prescription, I'm sure that you will be way more prepared to to answer to the crazy market that we have right now. So yeah, let's just grab a coffee after this and discuss. If there are any questions, I think that we still have 1 or 2 minutes. If there are any questions, please shoot. If not, you know, like 1 hand, 2 hand. Yay, that was great. We don't have any questions. Perfect. Not even a comment on why are we just putting the CI/CD over, you know, and just put it under the rug for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Either everyone is working so agile or none.
Okay, cool. Then thank you very much, and I hope you find this insightful and valuable.
Yeah, actually, I had a question. So during the sprint planning or the planning phase, you mentioned talking to some outside teams, like actually confirming that the implementation, your implementation is the right one. What happens when you receive like negative feedback? It's like, how does that translate into refactoring the implementation, so to speak?
It depends. A lot of teams actually come to me and engage with me, right? Usually not on sprint basis, but every month or so they would ask, hey, Horia, can you take a look at this? Is this okay from you? Maybe in 1, 2, 3 days, I would give an okay. Maybe you just tweak here and there. Now, what I see is that teams don't immediately implement the changes. They usually go in retrospective. Oh my God, yeah, we received feedback from Horia, like he's from Google, he might know what he's talking about. Oh yeah, we've also went to the DevOps and they've said that we should not use, you know, this library for terraforming, maybe we need to use their scripts, whatever. The feedback, because the team is so independent, self-organized, usually they are reluctant to outside help. And this is why I'm stressing out, and thank you for the question. Like, even if the team is self-organized, they should take into consideration. And what I'm seeing is after 1 month, after 2 months, they get back, oh yeah, we've implemented that. Thanks for that. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. 2 months later, no problem.
Yeah, so I understand the iteration cycle is actually greater for these decisions.
Yes.
So they're not like a 1 sprint interval.
Yes, sprints are there to deliver value, while you cannot change architecture patterns and implementation patterns overnight. But then again, you should always be open to these kind of changes. PubSub doesn't work for you, I don't know why. Go to Kafka. AutoML doesn't work for you. Whatever, go to Databricks, right? You need to make it, you need to have this mentality coming from DevOps, you know, like compartmentalize, do it all in microservices, and then just plug and play. That's the key.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you as well.